Hi, everybody. Welcome, welcome. It's so good to see all you folks, so many writers on the call and supporters of writers. Delighted to be in the space with you all tonight. We actually have a busy session planned, and we want to make sure that there's plenty of time for folks to read and ask questions. So I'm going to go ahead and dig in, and we can expect some folks to be added as we move along, and we're just going to just move forward. So welcome to the 2025 West Virginia Creative Network Literary Arts Fellowship virtual reading. This is our first reading of the series, and tonight we're highlighting nonfiction writers and their mentor. I'm Candy Workman, for those who may not know me. I work as the Director of Strategic Development for the West Virginia Creative Network, formerly known as the Tamarack Foundation for the Arts. So you might catch me slipping up and saying that as I go through the evening. And I'm also the project lead on our literary initiative. So this year, we were really fortunate to explore expanding our services and programs beyond visual artists to open up space to work with literary artists. We were able to hold a literary festival in the fall with West Edge and Huntington, and we've been able to plan this wonderful literary fellowship for this year. So this is a pilot project for us, an initial project, and we already know and see the value of this, and we hope to keep it going for years to come. We're not sure what that's going to look like yet, but the value is there. So I just want to share a little bit about the Literary Fellowship before we hop into introductions with the folks we're here to highlight and celebrate tonight. So the the fellowship itself is designed to support artists who show great dedication and quality in their creative works and the aptitude to grow a creative business. Um, Growing a creative business in the arts is challenging in West Virginia. Growing a creative business in the arts and writing, I would say, is doubly challenging in West Virginia. So this year has given us a lot to think about, a lot of ways to navigate this work and to build up camaraderie and peer community as we think about writers deserve to be paid for what they do. And what does that look like? While knowing each and every one of us is also dedicated community members in our own way, and we give back and we give back. So we are very critical to our communities and our state, and we're here to celebrate that tonight. I want to highlight the folks who helped make this program happen. So our funders for this work has been Berea College, their Appalachian Fund. So they were able to fund part of this, and the um, the Appalachian Regional, I'm sorry, not Appalachian Regional. I have ARC on the brain, and the National Coal Heritage Authority. So they funded the bulk of this work because we've dedicated to uplifting writers in Southern West Virginia, which is their service area. So we've been able to work with artists around the state and mentors for this fellowship. So this fellowship is designed to host 6 fellows and 3 mentors. While fellows are participating in this program, they receive one-on-one mentoring with a writer, a seasoned writer in or related to West Virginia in some way, one-on-one business coaching with Elaine Grogan-Luttrell of Minerva Financial Arts, as well as monthly financial literacy workshops with Elaine. Fellows participate in community engagement like this reading series, engage in peer support, and receive a small stipend of $1,000 to support their creative business growth. I'm really delighted and fortunate and just honored to introduce the fellows in the nonfiction genre, as well as their mentor. Cat Pleska is the mentor for nonfiction. She is a native of West Virginia, an award-winning author, educator, and storyteller. Her memoir, My Life in Water, was published in June 2024 by Uncollected Press. Her first memoir, Writing on Commons, was published by West Virginia University Press. Cat edited 4 anthologies, and her stories and essays have appeared in the Appalachian Heritage Anthologies, Still the Journal, Heartwood Magazine, Change 7 Magazine, and many others. She teaches in Marshall University's English department and in the Graduate Humanities program. Cat, we're so grateful that you're here this evening. I want to uplift one of the nonfiction fellows, Anna Rollins. Thank you for being here. Anna is the author of Famished, on food, sex, and growing up as a good girl, out December 9th, 2025 from Erdman's. Her groundbreaking debut memoir examines the rhyming scripts of diet culture and evangelical purity culture, both of which direct women to fear their own bodies and appetites. Her writing has appeared in outlets like the New York Times, Slate, Electric Literature, Salon, Joyland, and more. She's also written scholarly articles about composition and writing center studies. She's an award-winning instructor who taught English in higher education for nearly 15 years. She is a 2025 West Virginia Creative Network / Tamarack Foundation for the Arts Literary Arts Fellow. A lifelong Appalachian, she lives with her husband in West Virginia, where they're raising their 3 small children. And next, I want to highlight the other nonfiction fellow, Lydia Epp Schmidt. Lydia is a trans and disabled writer, artist, and independent scholar based in Pendleton and Tucker counties in West Virginia. With over a decade of experience in interdisciplinary academic spaces, including a PhD in American Studies, they are deeply invested in the overlaps between the stories we tell and our networks of care. Their writing blends scholarly inquiry, embodied writing to trace the resistance to and legacies of settler colonialism through stories of pain, plants, and place. When they're not writing, they're most likely rebuilding their house or sewing and designing clothes. Lydia and Anna and Kat, it's wonderful to have you all here tonight, and I'm so excited to hear each of you all read, and we're going to hop into a question, and we're going to follow this rhyme of question, reading, and then at the end, we're going to make space for Q&A from the audience before we close out the night. So if be jotting down your questions if you have any, and we'll make space for that. So for now, I'd love to make a little bit of space for Anna and Lydia to share a little bit more about their work, what they're focused on during this fellowship, and anything else they'd want you to know right now about themselves and their writing. Lydia, would you go first?
Sorry about that. Thank you so much, Candy. So I have kind of 2 twin writing projects that I'm working on juggling throughout this time. The first one, which is kind of a little bit on the back burner, is actually turning my dissertation into a book. And so I just finished my PhD this past spring, so I'm letting it sit a little bit. But Kat and I have had lovely conversations about that. And basically, my dissertation is in American Studies, and it's about dandelions and their context in Eastern North America. I take the plant, the weed, that is very widely known and one of the only widely identifiable plants by most Americans, to trace histories of settler colonial logics in this place. And I do that by tracing histories of medicine and care, because the plant was intentionally brought as food and medicine in the early colonies, like documented on the Mayflower, for example. But then also histories of environmental destruction through lawns and the ways that dandelions became a weed to most of us. So I'm working on kind of shifting that from dissertation into book is one of the things that I'm kind of slowly dipping my toes into. But I'm also very much focusing on my newsletter during this time, which is called Holding and Being Held. It's on Substack at the moment, but that might change. And that is essentially kind of been more of a container that allows me to play with writing. So I'm using it as a framework to talk about any and all of the various things where my interdisciplinary brain wants to go. So everything from living with chronic pain and disability to histories of pain and pain management, to like holding fabric and stitching and making, and those practices, to like our relationships with ecologies, and how we're kind of like held in place through relationships with plants as well. So those are my two writing focuses while I've been a part of this fellowship. Yeah.
Thanks so much, Lydia. Love hearing about all that stuff. Anna, do you want to share?
Yeah, thank you, Candy. This fellowship has been so wonderful. Kat and I have been working together every 2 weeks, and she's been reading the manuscript for my next book, which I am interrogating the trad wife, girl boss binary, and I'm thinking about women and work and care, and how our culture really doesn't value care work, and how dependence is kind of demonized in our culture. So that's kind of what I'm circling around in the work that I've been sending to Kat. I've also been doing a lot of work writing companion pieces to help market my memoir that's about to come out. So Famished looks at the rhyming scripts of purity culture and diet culture. And I'm really interested in the ways that the prosperity gospel is present in both, and how hyper individualism and moralism and white nationalism has like really pervaded American Christianity, and the way that connects to women's roles. So those are the two things I'm focused on. I'm also working on building my Substack, which I'm thinking of it as a teaching Substack. So I take things that I've written and I talk about the process of coming up with the idea, but then also pitching it. So I'm really interested in the business of writing, and I'm really passionate about teaching the business of writing to people. And so that's something that I've also been working on.
Incredible. Thank you both. I love when the parallels come out around things like Substack and newsletters and some of the cultures you all are talking about. So, well, Lydia, would you love to jump into reading and let us know what you're reading from and go from there? Handing it over to you. Thank
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you. So I'm going to be reading just a short essay this evening that I plan to appear in my newsletter at some point, so I'll be able to read it and revisit it. It's called Carrying Capacity, on Witnessing. I've witnessed a lot of brutality on the mountain roads of West Virginia in the past few months. It began with a day that felt like eerie foreboding, though of what I'm still not sure. Not 3 miles away from my home I'm rebuilding, a curve in the road revealed a devastation. Bright yellow car flattened in the ditch, wrong way up. I then spent the day working on building the walls of this house, and on the drive home, face to face with another wreckage. Not 3 miles from the mountain house I currently live in, another curve in the road revealed a white car in the ditch, the roadside slope littered with the debris of flipping. It was raining, and I stood with them until the fire department showed up, a constant stream of questions to keep them awake and lucid. 2 flipped cars in one day, each 3 miles from home, still feels like an omen. It's another drive back to the mountain after a long day. I'm in no rush and leave plenty of room between my bumper and the car in front of me. I've seen too much destruction to follow cars closely. A coyote darts from the grass on the side of the road, a mad dash to make it across. But it was a dash into the car in front of me. They could have never seen it coming. So their bumper clipped the canine's back hips, sending the coyote spiraling through the air across the road into the ditch. I could only watch in horror, hand on my face, crumpling into the pain of witnessing. My music, loud, drowned out the coyote's screams, but I could see their face contorted into the pain of wailing. No sooner had they stopped spinning and they were back on their feet, darting into the forest. I find myself searching for traces of them every time I drive that stretch of road, though I know I'll find none. I still wonder whether they could survive such a shattering. A white conservative violent man is assassinated in front of a stadium of people, and social media algorithms push the video to the top of everyone's feed, countless people opening these apps to witness another shooting. On the same feeds, I've watched countless Palestinian people bombed and sniped and executed over the past 2 years. I've witnessed countless Palestinian children beheaded by a genocidal Israeli regime funded by my taxes. But in the wake of this singular assassination, political violence is decried and denounced. Odd to witness those willing to forcefully condemn the shooting of one of the ideological architects of a violent fascist regime, but those same critics of this violence have said nothing forceful yet of the political violence against immigrants or trans folks or Black and Native peoples here. Who does it serve for us to be unwilling to call those brutal campaigns of political violence genocides? Do not tell me there's no intent when they joke of our dying, when they call for our eradication. Sometimes, as I talk of pain and its constancy in this body, I get questions of kindness and capacity. And as I've begun thinking more thoroughly about these questions of carrying capacity, I find myself sitting with the heavy realities of witnessing pain and brutality too. I think of our collective capacity for carrying the various brutalities we are asked to witness and to endure in this place at this time. The body can witness and hold and carry more pain than we think it can. In the face of an endless stream of devastating natural disasters, mutual aid networks are bolstered by the capacity of humans facing destruction to care for one another, to save each other when the government and its structures fail to. This is a phenomenon studied and cataloged for its transformational sense of fulfillment, community engagement, even joy. Here's a gentle reminder that having pain and suffering in it are not the same thing, which is perhaps to say, learning the distinction between the two extends your ability to discern the care you might need moment by moment, breath by breath. Because holding pain and holding suffering necessitate different kinds of tenderness. Because we are tasked with learning to hold both. Because making it through this historical moment requires more capacity for both enduring and witnessing pain and suffering. Because in order to resist and refuse these brutalities, we must be capable of both enduring and witnessing it. I haven't made it far from home when the skid marks appear on the road. Wavy black lines trace what I can only imagine to have been another tragedy in the way they dance across the pavement, around the curve, beyond the yellow demarcations, up a hill. There is no debris, no news story, no whisper in the community, just the lingering shadows of an uncontrollable car etched into the road down the mountain. Fall is here, and it's far too early. I mean that not for my own comfort, but as I write this, it's not even mid-September, and trees have gone from green to brown, and the slope is patchy already. I drive along the river, and the banks of rhododendrons, ancient and evergreen, are tinged yellow-brown. I fear their leaves will start dropping too. I wonder which environmental factors are causing this collective wilting, this early dormancy this year. Folks talk while standing in line for coffee of what may be the driest August on record. This is a different kind of brutality. Carrying capacity is not built on our own, though it does require a willingness to be uncomfortable, to sit in the contraction of suffering, to learn to expand in the aftermath. It requires a willingness to sit with others in their suffering, to learn to witness even when there is no support you can offer beyond the softness of your presence. It requires a willingness to contract into those moments when the suffering of pain or brutality becomes all-consuming. And allowing capacity to stretch in the residue of these contractions is a practice in staying open to all of the love and kindness and care of this world, despite the necessary accompanying grief and loss and heartbreak. Which is why carrying capacity is not built on our own, because we were not meant to carry things alone. The fierce individualistic independence of this culture will ask you to focus on your own pain and suffering at the expense of your capacity to help others carry theirs too. This expansion is a practice in accepting your own pain and suffering and knowing that it will shift and change and ebb and flow, and that resistance to its existence is not only futile, but also creates additional and unnecessary suffering in its wake. This is all perhaps to say, elongating your capacity to care for yourself enables an amplification of your capacity to care for others. And sometimes unfurling your heart to help others is what enables you to sit still with yourself too. My heart is an ocean and I'm drowning in it. I've called Forrest my heart dog. I'm still learning the ways it is true. When we tell stories of him, we talk of his exuberance for life, of his sweetness and kindness and joy, of the ways everyone who met him fell in love with him, of how he was the perfect dog. We tell all of this in the context of his pain, of his permanently dislocated hips, of his cataracts and the ways he couldn't see shit, of his seizures that haunted our efforts to keep him in this world and eventually took him out of it. I can't think of breathing or take a deep breath without remembering the way his breath slowed as I held him until it stopped. Breath was once a salve, but it's now an ocean too, and I've forgotten how to swim, so I stay in the shallows of breath and try not to think of lung capacity. I'm stuck in the open cavern of in-between, on a long drive I never wanted to end because it was the last. There's part of me now forever in that car because when it ended, I lost him too. I don't quite know how to describe the ways this baby deer's legs tangled with the wheels of the truck driving in front of me. The ways I was left to witness another life taken suddenly and forcefully, unable to do anything but sit despondent, whispering to myself and the baby deer and the whole universe as tears streamed down my face, I'm sorry, I'm sorry, I'm so sorry. The brutalities I've witnessed on these West Virginia roads over the past few months entangle themselves in my mind and spirit with those I face, manufactured by this nation state, which is to say, by the corporations and political violence that govern this country that have done so since its inception. In other words, I'm saturated with conversations on the strategy of how to keep us safe. I'm soggy from the cloud of genocide I've lived in since my gender dysphoria diagnosis years ago, despite the safety of passing. I'm waterlogged. Every day I'm met with a new climate of pain, both within and outside of this body. Every day I'm met with a new question of capacity. This is a fluid and constant negotiation. I long approached this as arbitration between body and mind, and it's now a gentler communion. Because as my capacity to carry this pain, this suffering, this brutality grows, my capacity for love and care and compassion grows too. What if there were no limit to this expansion? What if there were no limit to carrying capacity? What if I took every breath and every step in this world as if I could extend myself infinitely to cradle all of it? I find myself in the middle of the forest talking to the trees again, bearing every shred of my anguish to their infinite wisdom. Another reality is that I don't always have the capacity to extend grace and care and kindness in the face of pain and suffering and brutality. And I do not believe that all pain is a gift with a silver lining if you look hard enough. Some things shake us beyond repair, and we're forced to rebuild. I'm on the fringes of carrying capacity now. My edges are frayed, nerve endings exposed, battered by the elements. I weave another patch to mend the tears in my spirit. You could not help me hold them closed. Sometimes life requires you to be ripped open, to sit raw and reeling in the liminal space where time meets place. I'll meet you there, where the fabric of life feels thin, where everything is an ocean, where we'll learn how to carry it all with each shallow breath. Thank you.
Incredible, Lynn. Yes. All the hearts for you. What a piece of work. Mary Roy has shared Lid's Substack in the chat if anybody wants to grab that. Lid, thank you so much. As I mentioned, we're going to go through a little bit of a question and move on to Anna's essay reading. So if you have any questions for Lid, please jot those down, and we'll come back to that nearing the end of the session, end of the hour. So thanks so much. Speaking of care and community that Lydia talked about in the essay, part of this program was to couple fellows with their mentor. So these fellows have had time to spend with Cat Pleska. Cat has dedicated time to learning about the work of these fellows and how to best engage with them and support them through this. So I just want to ask the question to the three of you from your own perspectives. What has mentorship meant to you through this this fellowship so far? And that can be in a very technical sense or an emotional support kind of sense, whichever way it needs to go. So, Kat, can I pass it to you first to respond?
Sure. I love mentoring people with their writing, and if I can do that, it just delights me. I love working closely with people on writing that means a great deal to them. And to be honest with you, when I first learned of the two mentees, I was like, oh my gosh, they are both brilliant. What am I going to bring to the table with them? And what I found out that I bring to the table with them is a discussion. It's a deep conversation. It ranges, as both will tell you, kind of all over the place, but that it's always focused on what they're trying to do. And I try to support them in every way that I can and just hope that I can offer them something that is meaningful and useful for their work. I think that's been happening so far. I give them very honest feedback. Sometimes it might not even feel terribly comfortable for them, but they have been absolute champions. They've accepted my comments, open-hearted, and they have confirmed that, it was something that they did need to hear and that they were eager to work with. And so I've been very grateful for that back and forth with both of them. And they've both taught me a number of things as well. And I'm very appreciative of that. They're both wonderful people. And I'm very fortunate.
Thank you, Kat.
Mhm.
Lydia or Anna, if you want to respond?
Yeah, I will. One of the things that I think is most exciting about working on something longer is trying to figure out what you're doing. like, like I like going into a project and you can tell like there's like this seed of an idea, but you don't know where it's going, but it has like this power. And I feel like Kat has given me space to see what I'm writing around. She can give language. I can hand her something and I can say, this feels like it's all part of the same project, but what am I trying to do here? And she will read me. And she'll like try to put it in a framework, or even she doesn't even necessarily like have to say like, this is what you're doing, but she she's a good guide. And our conversations are something I look forward to every few weeks. It feels like I'm meeting with a friend, but then I also get like this incredible feedback at the end of it too. So it's not just meeting with a friend. But yeah, it's been such a gift.
Yeah, I completely agree, and echo what Anna just said in kind of my own particularities. Our conversations have been so helpful in giving me the space to figure out what writing needs to be for me right now. I came into this fellowship just like so gung ho, like, yes, dissertation to book, let's go, career. And that's a lot. And so it's been really important for me and really lovely to have the space to find the kind of more playful, more grounded in what space I have right now, mentally and emotionally and physically, to write, and to still get to engage and still get feedback and have conversations about it. And also like the ways that those conversations and questions that Kat has brought have opened the door to kind of imagining what a newsletter might look like for me and how I want to build it and how it fits into my life. And it's been really wonderful to kind of come out of a very intensive program feeling like, oh, I've said everything I could possibly say. I don't have any more words in me. And then to just get to drop into this community and also conversations with Kat that have opened the space to be like, no, there's infinite, you have so much and there's infinite things to say, and to get to then do that.
That's lovely, lovely. Just see the joy on your all's faces when you talk about your little discoveries and things that have progressed you to move from one point to the other. So thank you so much. Anna, I want to pass it to you for your reading if you want to share what you're going to be reading or reading from, and then hand it over to you.
Yeah, thank you. This is an essay that is not infamished, but it probably could be. I wrote it after I'd completed the manuscript, and I was like, oh, this feels like it's hovering around some similar themes. It's a coming of age essay. It's called "To the Woman Whose Online Journal I Secretly Read." Before I saw you at the pizza party, I'd been reading your journal for months. What did you expect by posting your secrets online? Your naked mind for public consumption. I was a voyeur, not a predator. I was a 17-year-old girl. Is there anyone less threatening than that? A shy-eyed, round-faced teenage girl, I was the sort of person some might want to protect. One evening at dusk, I jogged in a neighborhood not far from my home. I ran past a sign that said, "Neighborhood Watch, all suspicious persons will be reported." I realized that if I were someone else in another body, the suspicious person might be me. But no one suspected me. I was an innocent. This much is true. But here's another truth. I was obsessed with you. I knew your future aspirations, your insecurities, your daily schedule. I knew where you lived. And there I was at a pizza party 500 miles away from my home, all because I'd decided to visit you. I can't remember which came first, the college brochure or your online Zanga. But here's what I do remember. As a senior in high school in the early aughts, I wanted to go to Wheaton College. In the mint green bathroom by my bedroom, I kept a glossy magazine-length brochure for the college, the Harvard of Christian schools, I heard someone call it. Each time I sat on the toilet, I flipped through this brochure, envisioning my future self on each page. My future self was more confident and composed, thinner, with tamed hair. She was as manicured as the lawn on the quad, as learned as the students posed in the low-lit library. At this faux Ivy League school, I would be transformed. As a girl growing up in the mountains of Appalachia, I was drawn to Wheaton's idyllic campus and the short subway ride away from downtown Chicago. And I, immersed in fundamentalist Christianity, was intrigued by a religious, liberal arts degree that seemed safe. At Wheaton, I had the sense that things were up for debate. Things like the role of female ordination in the church or the morality of the war against terror. I wondered if all of Wheaton's faculty had voted for George W. Bush in the last election, like all the adults I knew. This consideration excited me, this nebulousness of identity, the inability to put someone in a well-defined box. At the end of the college brochure, there were the facts: tuition and fees, room and board, numbers I knew I could never afford. Still, I felt confident that I could pay off the loans. With such a prestigious alma mater, I'd land a high-paying editorial gig in Chicago or New York, no problem. After flipping through this brochure, I logged onto the internet to read your Zanga. I followed you at a time before social media was ubiquitous, before knowing the trivia of strangers' daily lives became a common pastime. You are a member of a group called Wheaton Class of 2009. This was not a campus-sponsored recruitment tool. The group developed organically. I'm positive that no one bearing their soul on the internet could conceive that a girl from fundamentalist Christian school in West Virginia was vicariously, secretly following their every update. But she was. I was. You posted almost daily. As I read your words, I felt like a participant in your life. I imagined myself studying in a hammock outside the dorms, attending ecumenical chapel services, depriving myself of sleep to work on a research paper in the library, all with one mission, a bright future. I wanted to see you rewarded for your hard work. You were nothing if not earnest, and so was I. For some reason, perhaps due to my sheer obsession, my parents agreed to a campus visit. We drove out of mountains past cornfields into the flattened parking lots and sprayed lawns of Chicago suburbia. For dinner, we ate at a Chipotle. I'd never heard of Chipotle before. The restaurant was so shiny with its long metallic tables. I imagined a future of such sheen. I envisioned an adulthood where, when hungry for anything, someone handed me an overstuffed burrito. Once we arrived at Wheaton, I checked in for the visitors weekend. I was handed a schedule and assigned a roommate. In the cafeteria that first evening, I sat beside my short-term roommate, a freshman at the school. As we ate our spaghetti, I explained to her how much I wanted to go to Wheaton, but how I knew I couldn't ever shoulder the cost of tuition. How do you afford it? I wondered aloud, having no knowledge of her family background or socioeconomic class. Student loans, she replied. I nodded my head, dispirited. My parents had practically forbidden me to take on debt to pay for college. Then I told her about your journal. Do you know Emily? I asked my roommate. Then I elaborated. She's a music major. I read her journal. It helps me imagine what it would be like to be here, to be a student here. She raised an eyebrow. Her journal? She asked. Like on Zanga. Have you heard of Zanga? She shook her head no. Or LiveJournal? Again, she shook her head. And having the sense that I was speaking to someone dissimilar from myself, someone who was an agent in her own life, not a daydreamer, vicariously trying on the lives of others, I changed the subject. Later, though, Emily, I saw you in the dorms. It was such an intimate campus. In the basement common room, my roommate suggested we attend a late-night pizza party. And there you were, the author of the Zanga I read each night. Your journal did not include photos, but I recognized you from your profile picture. A posed, sepia-toned selfie taken on Apple's photo booth. You were not beautiful, but you could have been. Your thick, wavy red hair cut short framed your face like a helmet. You wore a boxy sweater, and though you were bosomy, you didn't accentuate it. Still, I knew you had potential. Once in middle school, a boy approached me and said, "You have potential." Then he walked off. For years, I tried to see myself as he saw me. I looked in the mirror to determine what was working and what was not. Was it my hair? The fit of my long denim skirts? Was it my hip to waist ratio? Or maybe the brightness of my smile? I used to complain to my mother that all the girls in my class had boys chasing after them. All except for me. What was wrong with me? I wondered aloud. And my mother, in a voice that was neither coddling nor insincere, said, "Some girls peak early. Lots of your friends have probably peaked early." This was her way of acknowledging my potential. Potential that, I hoped, would turn from bud to bloom in college. Round face to sharp cheekbones, frizzy hair tamed, posture improved, all these side effects of the right undergraduate degree. And that's what I saw in you, and almost, but not quite. You were a wait and see. Your imperfections were what made you a page turner. I did not believe I was reading a life narrative with a guaranteed happy ending. I was eager to see you transform, and Wheaton College would be the site of our metamorphosis. Eventually, I would learn that I couldn't come into my potential until I no longer cared so much about what others thought of my appearance. That was both the problem and the solution. But that night, in that room with you, I cared deeply. And that's why I never approached you. I feared what you would think of me. In the middle of the room, there was a piano. You began to play. I stood by in a corner. I wanted to speak to you, to find a way in, but I found nothing available to me. So I just listened to your song. Your music was quiet, skillful, beautiful. I didn't enroll at Wheaton. I couldn't afford the cost. I would attend a public state school miles away from my Appalachian home. Around this time, I would stop reading your journal, too. My reality would require another fantasy. Sometimes I walked across the lawn at my state school, and as I'd feel the breeze and bask in the sun, I would think, there's potential here too. As I aged, I learned to find beauty not just in transformation, but in what remained steady, the same. Now that we are both middle-aged, I wonder about your path. Maybe you had crushing student loans. Perhaps you had trouble finding a job with your music degree as you graduated into a recession. Or maybe you reached the height of the potential I'd seen in you all along. I imagine you in your home, playing your piano for an audience of one, the only critic who matters. I hope you keep private journals now, without care for public perception. And as you create at the peak of your life, I hope you've learned that a well-lived life does not need to be in a constant state of reaching. Thanks.
Woo-hoo. Thank you, Anna. So delightful. All kinds of claps. And Mary Roy has put Anna's Substack in the chat as well. Yes, way to go, Anna. Thanks so much for sharing that. For the sake of time, we're going to skip over the next question and go ahead and ask Kat to share a little bit of reading. Considering the fellows work so closely with Kat, I wanted to make sure we had some space to incorporate Kat's voice and words into this evening as well. So, Kat, I'm going to hand it over to you, and she does have a disclaimer.
Yes, thank you, Candy. Tomorrow begins, October is the month of the Domestic Violence Awareness Month. And this essay I'm going to read, titled Why, will bring up the question about when is it important to ask why and when is it not. And I want to take a sentence from something that Lydia said. She said, a willingness to sit with others in their suffering. And although I didn't do that when I was younger, I've learned more over the years how important that can be, to acknowledge the suffering, to call it what it is, and to reckon with it in our society. So I'll read this essay called Why. Decades ago, when I was first married, my husband and I moved our mobile home to St. Mary's, West Virginia, to a trailer park. I made friends with one young woman near my age who lived in the trailer on the right of us. One soft summer morning, I went over to visit with her. She opened the door, and I saw that one side of her face was red. She had been crying. She beckoned me in, and I hesitantly stepped into her living room. Up close, I could see a small gouge in her cheek. What happened? I asked. Her husband had backhanded her, she said. He was wearing his high school class ring, and that's what took out a hunk of her cheek. She told me why he hit her, but I don't remember what she said. I didn't know what to say or do. I felt anger. I felt helpless, but I said nothing. Did not know if I should. We chatted as if it was a normal day. Then I said I had to leave, that I had an appointment with a woman in the trailer on the other side. Stunned and confused, I walked to the other trailer and knocked on the door. She flung it open, and I immediately see the shape of a full hand on her cheek, bright red. I stepped backward off the step and stammered I'd come back at another time, but she gestured for me to come in. I hesitantly stepped up the 2 steps into her home when she grabbed me by the wrist to pull me in. I again said I could come back another time, but she said, "No. I said I was going to teach you to crochet, and that is what we're going to do." A bit frightened, I perched stiffly on her couch, trying to follow her instructions to cast on and chain stitch. I asked her at one point what happened. She touched her cheek, but I don't remember what she said as to why he hit her. Finally, after a tense half hour, I left with a skein of yarn, a crochet needle, a granny square, and a feeling of despair. That afternoon, my husband came home from work. I was in the middle of telling him about my day when there was a knock at the back door. I went to open it to find a young woman with long black hair, which did not cover the deep red marks around her neck or the bruises on her chest. She lived in the trailer behind us, she told me, and said, "My boyfriend ripped the phone cord out of the wall. I need to call my mom to come pick me up. Can I use your phone?" I moved aside to let her in. I overheard her speaking with her mom, telling her why he tried to choke her, but I don't remember what she said. Years and years later, I was writing and recording essays for West Virginia Public Radio. It was October, Domestic Violence Awareness Month. Such awareness didn't exist in our sleepy little West Virginia town so long ago, but those women haunted me still. I wrote an essay about them and what happened that day. I gave a copy to the producer for approval. He said, "This is fine, but remove one of the women." "Why?" I asked. "Because," he said, "no one will believe you."
Yeah,
Uh,
thank you so much, Kat.
mm,
What an intense message right there at the end. Yeah.
it is, and it makes you think about, the real whys. The whys don't matter of why they got, abused. What does matter is that we recognize it, sit with their suffering, and offer whatever help we can. We learn over the years.
Thank you so much, Kat.
Sure.
I have a couple of prompts in my back pocket for questions to ask these lovely humans, but I want to make space first to see if there's any questions from the audience for one of the fellows or for the group. So just take a couple of seconds to see if anybody wants to share anything, and if not, I've got some things I want to ask. Hi, Nellie.
Ooh. Hi.
Hi. Yeah.
Wow. Thank you all, Lydia and Anna and Kat, for sharing your writings. So, so wonderful. Um, my question is for Lydia. Um, I I'm so well, one, I'm so sorry that I missed the first part. And I see that this will be recorded. Okay, and how do we access that?
Mary Roy, our communications guru,
Wonderful.
will have this published, yeah, in about a month. So we'll get it
Amazing.
out in socials.
Awesome. Wonderful. Thank you, Mary. Okay, so Lydia, um, oh, thank you, Mary. I would really, really appreciate that. Okay, so um, first of all, I want to say thank you so much for sharing your writing. It is extremely meaningful to listen to folks who are really responding to our times. And like just like I latch onto that a lot with your work. Really speaks to me in that way. And I was curious, how did you kind of like solidify how you like moved through this piece? Like you're so wonderful at like giving these like vignettes and then like stringing us to another one and another one. I just wanted you to maybe talk about that.
Yeah, thanks, Ellie, for that question and also comments. So it started with kind of just like an accounting. Like I had this running list of all of these. I didn't even include all of the brutal things that I've witnessed on these roads, but it kind of like I started having this list of like, oh my goodness, all of these things, one right after another that I'm witnessing. They're like, and knowing kind of as time progressed and the list just kept getting longer and longer, that like it would become a piece of writing, and I didn't really know what about or like what was kind of like the thought behind it. And I kind of figured out the question of like carrying and carrying capacity by starting to write the little snippets and seeing like what kind of came through as I wrote and documented my experience of them. And then after that is kind of play. It's like once I had a certain number of them, it's like what feels right alongside each other. And as I add and kind of develop the kind of pieces that are less about like a moment I experienced and more about like kind of my internal thinking or processing or feeling, how does that shift the order of where I feel like where do I feel like we need a breath of like another moment of like that grounds us in something material, and where do I feel like we need another breath of something that's more internal and kind of philosophical, and kind of trying to balance that those kind of different voices and paces throughout is how I approach it. But it's kind of like puzzle play.
Oh, fascinating. So wonderful. Thank you.
Thanks, Ellie.
Thank you. Love you.
Yeah, really, I liked her reading.
Mary Roy said that it's a beautiful dance. You're writing, Lid. Awesome.
Thanks.
Does anybody else? Does anybody else have a question for the fellows or a comment? Yeah, Paula.
Both of you did a fantastic job. It was beautiful. And I wanted to know about the commonality of violence between the three of you, and both internal and external. And if you all knew that that was going to be a central component of each of your all's talks, and why you think you landed on that as a central component. And those are my questions.
I'll start. We did not consult with each other, but I do think it's interesting that like we're hovering around similar tensions, and even though our pieces were talking about very different things, we are, yeah, it's like in our consciousness. So I really like that you noticed that and you made that like thematic connection. And as I'm going through my piece, I'm like, at first I probably wouldn't have thought of violence as a central theme, but as you said that, I was like, oh yeah, there is like a lot of like self-violence, but then also like the violence in the community surrounding me and how that shaped my own inner world. Yeah, so that's a really interesting observation. I love that.
Yeah, there was no consultation, so had no idea that there would be that kind of common thread. But I find that often in reading, somehow that happens. Like somehow they all kind of play off of each other, off of some sort of thread. And I think that this has been a piece of writing that has been kind of brewing for me for months and months, like since this kind of series of events happened to me this summer. And I think the acceleration of the violence that we're witnessing and experiencing kind of made it feel more necessary for me to like have the impetus to like sit down and write the thing. So I think that was a big reason behind why violence is much more kind of present in this piece than it is in other writing, I often kind of am thinking more about pain and care than I am about kind of the brutality of existence. Yeah, I don't know if I hope that answered your question.
Kat, were you in any way influenced by what you were working with the mentees, the fellows on to choose your piece, or was your piece, did you select that because of other reasons for tonight?
Well, it wasn't planned. And in thinking about what I wanted to read tonight, I was just very conscious of, of October and Domestic Violence Awareness Month. So I was thinking, okay, maybe this would fit. And obviously, it's something that has followed me through the decades that I witnessed, and it still bothers me. And being a witness to violence, I think, is important. To acknowledge it and to bring it out, bring it forward, or we're not going to be able to do anything about it. Unfortunately, we are reaching a point in this country where this it's going to be very difficult to pull it out of the pit of violence-centered country. And I think it's on all our minds. It could have been subconscious on mine. But at any rate, we didn't plan it, but it's cool that Paula noticed that thread.
Thanks, Kat. We're nearing the end of the hour, so I wanna present a question to Lydia and Anna about as you're working through your creative writing and your careers and growing your business or life around your writing, what kind of support do each of you need from your community, your peer community, and just community in general when it comes to where you want to be in the next couple of years? I would say 5 years. That feels so far right now. Like, what do you need from your community to get where you want to be in the next 2 years?
I'll start. I think that finding my audience has been a really big focus for me this past year, like trying to find the spaces, whether online or offline, where my ideal reader exists. And like, so for my book, I had to like chart out my ideal reader, and I envisioned a woman who came of age at the turn of the millennium. That's obviously not the only reader for my work, but that's probably like a primary reader. So I'm looking for if that's you, I would love to connect with you. I'm on Substack and Instagram, and I post writing there often, but finding my audience is really important. And then I'm also really passionate about teaching. I taught in higher ed for almost 15 years, and I love like breaking down how to just like get your work out there, because I didn't really start publishing consistently until 3 or 4 years ago. And there's craft, but there's also like strategy in trying to break into popular outlets. And I try to kind of take the veil away from some of that on my Substack. And so if you're a writer who's interested in breaking into various outlets, like I try to write about that and provide educational material. So yeah, I guess I'm just looking for people who are interested in the type of work that I'm writing for the world.
Thanks, Anna.
Yeah, I think I'm similar, which makes sense. I mean, as a writer, you're kind of looking for the folks who want to read your work. That's and continually putting it out there, and in that way, trying to find those folks. I'm very fortunate to be grounded in such a wonderful community of creative folks, both virtually through things like this fellowship and also in person in West Virginia, that I feel so held and so supported in so many different ways. And I think that like my biggest ask for other support is like, if you want to read my work or share it or know someone who might, follow my newsletter, because that's where I'll be writing and also letting like if I'm ever doing any workshops or like, future books and such things, will kind of show up there. And also like if you ever see me, say hi. If you're ever coming through Thomas, like let's get a coffee. I always love to hang out and chat. So yeah, I think those are my asks.
Awesome. Well, we are at the end of our hour. Mary has shared more information about Anna and Lydia in the chat if folks want to grab that information. And we appreciate everybody showing up tonight to support the fellows and this program. And we're just so grateful that everybody gave us some time this evening. So we appreciate you. Please stay in touch. We have the next one coming up at the end of October for poetry with El Renee and Tucker Riggleman. And then the fiction will be the end of November with our fiction fellow. So thank you all so much. We're grateful for you. You all have a good evening.